Welcome to Free Advice Friday. My name is Keri Barnum. I am here for New Shelves Books, and every Friday we get together at 10 a.m. Eastern to talk about book marketing, publishing, really anything having to do with the business of being an author. And today we are live. We have some live questions as well as some questions that were emailed in. So if you can't join us live, that's all right. You can email your questions into info at newshelves.com. We do answer those lives, and you can catch them on the replay. Replays are put up on YouTube, which is simply youtube.com/New Shelves Books. So with that, let's jump in and get started. Let's start with Lawrence's question about the best hashtags for videos. So the best hashtags will actually depend on the platform you are on. If you are on, let's say, TikTok, hashtags will be slightly different than Instagram. If you're on Twitter still, that's different too. So Twitter, you want a max of 3 hashtags. Of course, Twitter, we're kind of seeing fade out as Threads is really taking over. Now, Threads is getting a lot of engagement. I shared my concerns 2 weeks ago. I shared my concerns 2 weeks ago about how Threads is all owned by Meta along with Facebook and Instagram. So that's a lot. That's a lot of trust in one company on social media. But user experience so far has been pretty positive. People are getting engagement over there. So if you're over there again, it's much like Twitter. So you want minimal hashtags. Now, if you're on Facebook, hashtags are one of those things that kind of matter. Mostly though, the hashtags on Facebook don't matter nearly as much. So you can use them, but you don't have to. If you are going to use hashtags on Facebook, you want to focus more on like 3 or 4, and you want to go pretty general. I know it's not TikTok, but on both Instagram and Facebook, using the book talk hashtag, the hashtag real, hashtag viral, which I think is kind of funny because anyone can say hashtag viral, doesn't mean they are, but also content wise. So who are you speaking to? Hashtag moms, hashtag historical fiction, hashtag am reading, like those types of things. So think not only of the topic and the content, but who you're targeting, and that's what you should be using. If you're on Instagram, you can have up to 30 hashtags, and it's recommended you have at least 10. So at least 10 hashtags. And I like to have a strategy of doing a hashtag that's kind of more broad. So when you start to type in a hashtag on Instagram, it will actually like pop up suggestions and it'll tell you how many times it's been used. I like to use a couple of hashtags that have a ton of use that are really popular. But I like to make sure also that I have some hashtags that are more niche down, because otherwise you're just competing in a really big sea. So I like to mix up, do some that, like hashtag book talk is huge. Now, if you do hashtag am reading historical fiction, that's going to be smaller. So I like to pair the really big hashtags with the smaller hashtags. Other than like book talk and things like that, I'm not seeing too many video specific hashtags, but if anyone else has, feel free to drop it in the chat. So that was Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I think we covered all the main ones. Oh, and then of course, TikTok. TikTok, again, about 5 to 10 tags is usually what I'm seeing. And again, going for some of the big ones like hashtag book talk, and then some that are more general. So let's say hashtag book talk, hashtag romance, hashtag funny. That's kind of what I'm seeing more on TikTok. And those TikTok algorithms, I mean, algorithms on TikTok are everything, and they change, it seems, by the day. So that's something to just remember as well. Sometimes you do the right things and sometimes it's all on the algorithms. It's how often you post. And sometimes I've seen more than once where someone will go viral with a video that they posted months ago. It's not even something they posted recently. It's like a recent post got some attention and then an old video goes viral. So we see that as well. Let's see. Something that was brought to my attention today, and I've seen it a lot. So I'm actually an admin on a big author group on Facebook. It's a group for women who are editors, publishers, authors, just women in the industry, and I'm an admin there. And so I see a lot of posts come up, and it lets me know, you guys, the scammers are out. I have seen so many hopeful authors thinking they're getting a film deal when it's not. I've seen scams that are saying they're from Barnes and Noble. I've been seeing scams. One said they were from Macmillan, and they were sneaky. These people say they're from Macmillan. They're offering a deal to an author, and what they're doing is when they're sending an email, they're sending it from like Joe at Macmillan USA. Well, Macmillan doesn't do that. It's all Macmillan.com. And so it looks legitimate though, because it's got the Macmillan name right in it and all of those things. So we're seeing tons of scams coming out right now. I don't know if it's just the season or what, but lots and lots of scams. And I'm seeing them across the board for supposed literary agents, for film deals. I'm seeing them supposedly from Barnes and Noble. I'm seeing them just for marketing things as well. We want to republish your book. We think that it would be great. It'll only cost, or we'll partner with you. You can gain, $500,000. All we need is XYZ. The film ones mostly are saying things like, your book is up for film optioning. We just need your full interior. We need a book trailer, and we need your screenplay. Or they'll say things like, if you don't have a screenplay, we're willing to split that cost with you 50-50. Things like that. So number one, beware of scams. You guys know my rule. If you did not sign up for someone's list, if you did not reach out for them first, or if it didn't come from a source that you know and trust, be wary. The other thing that I have to say, and Bob hit on it right here, Bob said, hungry writers are easy prey. So often I see this as the case is because we want to believe that it's true. We want to believe that someone was just browsing around online. They found our book and thought, hey, this would be a great movie. We want to be that person. And that does happen. I have to say, being again a moderator in these groups, I've seen a lot of people say things like, oh, that never happens. If someone reaches out to you first, it's always a scam. That's not true. Having worked with both film and agents and having multiple clients who have film adaptations of their books, I have seen, and I've even had agents come to me and say, Keri, do you know this author? Because I want to get in touch with them about possibly optioning their book. So it does happen. Absolutely happens. I also have agents come to me and say, hey, I'm looking for thriller novels that could be adapted for film. Do you have any? So sometimes you get that lucky. But again, if you don't know this person, you should absolutely do your due diligence and be very wary. The things to think about is that if someone truly is reaching out to you and they want to do like a film adaptation, if they want to be an agent, if they want to sell rights for you, they are not going to ask for money. Number one, they are just going to ask for a call with you. They're going to ask to get in touch because they just want to reach out to you. Because even if your project is fantastic, if they love your book, if you are a difficult person to work with or you don't retain your own rights, they're done. They're just done. So first, they're typically just going to reach out and say, hey, we're interested. Can we connect? So that's step number one. Step number two is that a legitimate offer almost never tells you what or an amount you can get. They're not going to say you could earn $500,000. They're not going to say any of that because they don't know. They could put it up and they could, they're mostly putting it up for option, and then they're going to negotiate a price, or they are going to, put it in. A lot of times, if it does go to film, let's say a movie or a book turns into a movie that goes and is produced, a lot of times profits are tied up in a percentage of production costs, or it's tied up in a percentage of profits or royalties or all sorts of things. So they can't even give you a firm number. And more than that, a true manager or agent in film, or even in subsidiary rights and things like that, most of the time, not all of them, but most of the time, they're not asking you for $5,000. Most of the time, in this type of situation because they're selling rights for you or they're working with you on your behalf. They're not asking for upfront fees. What they are going to do is ask for a percentage, much like a literary agent would do. They want their 15%, they want their 20%, whatever it may be. And that's what they're asking for. So they're scouting you because they say, ooh, this could make me money. They are then going to invest themselves and their time into selling your project, and they want a cut back from that. So those are things to kind of consider for films, especially if it's a literary agent, guys. Literary agents very rarely are going to scout you. And if they do, they're not going to say, I want to republish or I want to pitch your current book, your book that's already out mid-series. They're just not doing it. Now, what they may do is they may be, they may say, I love your work and I'd love to know what you've got working on if you've got a future book. But again, do your due diligence. Look them up on sites like Writer Beware. Writer Beware, Victoria over there really has done a great job of finding companies that are scammers. And she also will say, it'll be a company name, and I'm just going to make up a name. It'll be like Wood Seat Productions. And then it'll say also see, because some of these scammers get shut down and they open up under different names. And so she does a really great job of that. Google them, look at their email address. Google, number one, not just the company, but Google the person's name and the company. They should show up somewhere, even if it's like LinkedIn or something like that. Also, look at their email. If it is a branded email, if it's not Gmail or something like that, go to the domain name, like the Macmillan-USA.com. There's no website for it, which immediately tells me this is probably not a legitimate company. So those are just some of the things that you can do. Be wary of those people. I'm not saying, it's really weird because in our industry, there are a lot of things that you do pay up front for. There are a lot of things that are legitimate that maybe seem, like I said, you actually can have someone come up to you out of the blue and say, hey, I want to talk to you about optioning your book for film, which makes it so difficult. But be wary, ask in groups. I have people send me stuff all the time. And, again, I give them much of the same advice, or I'll immediately look and say, no. Ask in groups, put it out there. If someone is posing, let's say the person who was posing as Barnes and Noble and said they wanted to stock them in stores and things like that. The best thing you can do is look up Barnes and Noble, their actual email address, customer service. It can be headquarters, doesn't matter. Email them and ask them if it's a legitimate offer, because number one, they can confirm or deny. And if it is a scam, excuse me, if it is a scam, then they can actually follow up and try to get these people taken care of so they're not scamming anymore. And we're just seeing so much of this. I've seen it even the big indie group, 20 books to 50K. Michael Anderle just posted about people using their name when they shouldn't be, and just things like that. So be wary, be hopeful. I don't want anyone to lose their hope, but if it sounds too good to be true, it may be, and you really should do your due diligence and be very cautious about giving people money when you didn't reach out to them first, when you didn't sign up for it, or you didn't hear from it. So for example, I may not know someone in the industry who's doing something, but if I was introduced to them by my friend Alexa Bigworth, who's also in the industry, if she introduces me to them, then there is built trust because she has made that introduction. But if all of a sudden people are just emailing me saying, hey, I would really love to give you $300,000, I'm not going to answer. So I know it's hard. It's wicked out there, I have to say, because these people will find authors, they will find books, and they manage to get in touch with you. Sometimes they're calling you. So just be wary, you guys. I know sometimes it's hard because you want to believe it's true, but no one wants to lose hundreds or even thousands of dollars on these things. Let me see. I am doing my first book signing tomorrow. Is it okay to charge less for the book at the signing than on Amazon? Absolutely. You can charge a special price. You can charge you can do an in-person charge. It's really up to you what you charge if you are in person there. It's just like running a sale. So that's fine. What I typically recommend is if you are responsible, if you're going through a store or something and they're handling the tax, whatever price you want to do is fine. If you are doing direct sales, if you're selling at a festival or something and you're going to have to account for that in taxes and you're going to have to pay the taxes, I strongly recommend you find a price that works your taxes in. So for example, sales tax in New York State is 8%. Look, I'm looking for my phone because you guys know that I'm not going to be able to do math here, and I'm probably still going to get it wrong, but I'll try for you guys. I'll try. So for example, if you know that your sales tax is 8%, then on $8, that's obvious, or I'm sorry, on $10, that's 80 cents. So I need to either say, I'm going to charge a flat $10 fee for my books, and I will eat the 80 cents for sales tax, or I would do something like, okay, I know that if I do $11 at 80 cents, $11 at, oh my gosh, math is really hard for me, you guys, and we know this. If I do $12 at 8% sales tax, that pulls me pretty darn close to $13. So I might just say, hey, it's an even 13. I'm going to record it as 12. That dollar is going to go to tax and I'm going to be done. But however it works, I do recommend that rather than doing that, don't try to ask people for change. It's hard enough to get cash as it is if you're doing direct sales. So if you're doing festivals and things, do not make it $10.80. Like, just don't do it to yourself. Make it a flat number and either eat the tax or put it into your flat number so that you can make sure that you're accounting for the tax that you will have to pay on those. Of course, you can always do things like PayPal, using QR codes to get payments through PayPal, Venmo, Squarespace, all sorts of things are options as well. But just think about that as you're doing it. But of course you can charge less. It's a special price because you're there in person and you can sign books. So congratulations and have a blast. I also recommend, if you are doing a signing and there are other people there, have something on your table that people want to come over for, even if it's for free, like a bowl of candy or something that like they'll have to read that's kind of smaller sometimes works, but like a bowl of candy or something interesting that they want to look at or touch or grab one is a smart idea when you are doing in-person sales, so you can get people over to you. Let's see. Yes. So Hollywood strikes right now. I'm sure everyone's heard of it. Not only is the Writers Guild for Hollywood striking, but now the actors are striking. And so we're seeing these widespread strikes. And the question is, how does this affect us as agents, as publishers? Here's the thing, it doesn't really affect the publishing industry as far as it goes for writing and books and publishing. Our books are still being written. The writer strike is definitely a Hollywood, it's a unionized thing, not just Hollywood. I mean, film is all over the world, but in the US, especially in writing for Hollywood, for film. So we're not seeing that really as like authors for writing and publishing. So I think that you are perfectly fine. Same thing, literary agents can still accept manuscripts, publishers are still publishing, they're still putting books out there. So it doesn't affect us in that way. I will say that SAG-AFTRA, I think I'm saying that right. They are kind of the union that does affect and does connect with voice talent. So voiceovers, voice talent, audiobooks. It may affect you there if these people are connected to that union. SAG-AFTRA has actually done stuff with Find Away Voices and all that kind of stuff. So they definitely are in the publishing industry, and it may affect some of voice talent if you were doing audiobooks, but otherwise it's not really affecting there. I hope it's resolved soon. I know it's been ongoing, and as I said, the actors are now on strike as well. I have several clients who are either writers or actors or have both in their households, and I know it's a difficult time for them. So hopefully there's a resolution there, and hopefully it's a positive one. Let me see for questions. So we did that. Oh, the other thing I wanted to talk about is we were seeing a big decline in publishing deals in the first quarter of 2023. Part of that was because we did have the HarperCollins strike and different things like that. But the deals being offered by publishers in the first quarter were low. Not only were they low, they were slow, but we're seeing a rebound of that in the second quarter. We are definitely seeing where adult fiction has continued through 2023. Sales have continued to be strong, and we are now seeing deals continue to be strong. So adult fiction is doing really well. As far as deals coming up, adult nonfiction is also coming up. So if you are hoping to publish traditionally or work with an agent or anything like that, we are seeing that bounce back for nonfiction for deals, which means that publishers think that, number one, the trend of adult fiction is going to continue to do well, but also they expect that nonfiction is going to continue a rebound as well, not only for deals, but for sales. So that's a good thing. What we are seeing, though, I'm sorry, I know we have a couple children's book authors on here, but what we are seeing is a decline in children's books. Not only in deals, publishers are pulling back on publishing deals for children's books. It looks like the book has been oversaturated and that it's been overbought. So more publishing deals were put out than they're really actually making sales on. So we're seeing a decline in acceptance from publishers for children's books. Agents, of course, are going to, be wary as well, knowing that. We're also seeing children's books decline in sales, particularly in children's nonfiction. I think this is, again, just part of the rebound still from COVID. We're seeing more and more of people going back into school and kind of slowly moving out of that. That doesn't mean books are not selling. It just means there's a decline. We are also seeing a big decline for middle and young adult books in hardcover, which is really interesting because in years past, hardcover was preferred. It did sell the best for middle, actually for pretty much all juvenile fiction, going all the way up through young adult from, like board books. And we were definitely seeing that, but we are seeing that kind of shift, that trend shift as expenses have gone up, as hardcovers had started to get pretty pricey. Hardcovers can range anywhere from $25 to $35, which is pretty pricey for a single title. And we are seeing where those hardcovers are not selling as well. Barnes & Noble actually said that up to 80% of hardcovers can be returned in the middle and young adult space, which is astronomical. Paperbacks are making a comeback because they're cheaper. If you can get a paperback for $15 or a hardcover, unless it's an author you love and you want to keep their book and you want to shelve their book, or if you're a library, something like that, paperback is definitely coming back in. So that's good for you young adult authors to know, especially if you're self-publishing and making these decisions on your own. It's good to know that it's okay to do those paperbacks. You don't necessarily have to go through the hardcover route, which was kind of more popular previously. So that's kind of industry news happening right now this quarter. And the other big thing, unsurprisingly, is AI. AI is going to continue to be both the joy and the bane of our existence for the next couple of years, I think. So AI, we are now seeing where authors they're fighting back against AI that was trained on their books. So we've seen open library lawsuits are going through. We're seeing lawsuits for OpenAI and a couple different things where authors are actually going through with lawsuits for programs that were trained on their works without permission. Speaking of, months ago. I don't even remember how long, but it's been several months. I think it was even like the end of last year. We were talking about Findaway Voices and how Findaway Voices has a clause in their contract that is for online, or it's for training. Essentially, it's training AI, and they were allowing Apple to use books from Findaway Voices to learn their AI software, and that was written right in their contract. It was this big deal. It blew up on TikTok. I talked about it here. It was all over, where voice artists were really upset, especially because they didn't give permission. The publisher was giving permission for this AI to be trained on the narrator's voices without their consent, which the publisher didn't really have the rights to do. SAG-AFTRA got involved. It was this big thing, and Findaway Voices was like, okay, we won't do it anymore. We won't sell the rights to Apple, and you can opt out. It was always in their contract that if you emailed them, you could opt out. And it was this big thing. And then it was like, okay, we're all good. They met with SAG-AFTRA. It's, all set. But you guys, I just looked at a contract for a client for Findaway Voices. They had renewed terms. And so I looked at the contract and I downloaded it. And this contract from June of 2023, from last month, still has the same clause allowing machine learning. It's still in there. So whether or not they're actively allowing AI to use these files, it's still in the contract. They haven't removed it. So if you are new to Findaway Voices, just know you can email them. You can tell them you do not allow machine learning. You will not allow your rights to be used in that way. But you do have to email them specifically and list your titles in your account. So I strongly recommend you do that. I did do a blog on this, and in that blog, let me see if I can find it. I actually gave some kind of, not only the email address, but a script kind of what you can say to them. I feel like it's one of those things where like one thing was said and agreed upon, but it's still in the contract. And we all know that the contract, that is the legal entity that gets used if there's ever an issue. It is the contract, and it's still in their contract as of June 2023, which I was disappointed to see. I will drop in the link if you haven't done this yet for Findaway Voices. You may want to, just saying that they don't, you don't approve this. If you are watching the replay, just go to newshelves.com and search Findaway. I also have a video up on YouTube where you can search Findaway and hear more about that. So AI will, again, continue to be one of those things. We have to learn how to use it ethically, but it's also one of those things that's going to be a push and pull of who has what rights, what's it learning from, who's profiting from whom, all sorts of things. So as we learn more on other industry news as well as AI, I'll certainly keep you in the loop as much as possible. Currently, can someone else use a voice or image similar to your character and use it in the AI space? Here is the thing, is that that actually boils down to copyright and trademark. And these things, I'm not a lawyer. If you have questions that are law specific, please go find a lawyer. Please ask them. I can only give you my opinion and general thoughts on it. I can't give you legal advice, nor would I. But as far as those things, yes, you can do similar things. I mean, this has been going on for years. Think about it. Think about Jack Ryan. Jack Ryan is a very well-known character, right? It's a very well-known character, and that character is actually specifically trademarked. So number one, have you copyrighted or trademarked is part of the question. And number two, are you willing to fight for that right if you do that? But Jack Ryan is trademarked. And so people cannot use that exact name. They can't use that character. However, they can absolutely have a nerdy spy who is, into international espionage and kind of I can't say that word, and kind of like a really tough guy. they can do that. So can AI use a character or image similar? Absolutely, they can, because it's similar, it's not exact, and if it's not trademarked or copyrighted, then they have access to that. That's creative liberty. And so there are certain things that they can do and could be done by a person as well as AI. So which sites do you recommend for ARCs that would leave reviews on Amazon at launch? Here's the thing with ARCs and reviews. So a lot of the ARC programs give people a book prior to launch, and then, you know, it encourages them to leave a review. The thing that I have to say is that none of them can require or demand a review. And some of those people will review on Amazon. They're encouraged to, but some of them won't. Some of them will leave a review right on that review site. Some of them will leave on Goodreads, and some of them, actually more than half of them, won't leave a review at all. So it's really important to know that when you're using an ARC program, you're giving yourself a shot at getting reviews, you're encouraging reviews, but these people don't actually have to leave Amazon reviews, and it cannot be a requirement of the program. It cannot be a requirement of you giving someone a book. It's actually against Amazon's terms of service. With that said, there are different ARC programs that you can use that can help encourage reviews and give you the audience that might give you some reviews. Those, for example, would be a Goodreads giveaway, best done prior to launch, as we talked about with Alessandra last week in that interview. So Goodreads giveaways are an option. NetGalley is an option. I'm seeing more and more where NetGalley is, it's been used for trade publishers for years, and so it's very popular. I'm seeing as indies are able to access that more, that the space is growing more and more crowded, and people are being more picky about the books they choose to request from NetGalley. So what I'm seeing is that when people are getting downloads, they're getting reviews typically. Not all of them go over to Amazon. Some of them just leave them right on NetGalley. But what I'm seeing is that for authors that don't have a well-known name or a very hot genre, they're finding it hard to get traffic to their NetGalley page, and so they're not getting as many requests for reviews, which is just one of those things to think about. NetGalley is not inexpensive. It's a couple $100, so it's still a good option, but I like to give that information in there because I think it, you know, it can kind of determine what you might invest in. Hidden Gems is another great one. Hidden Gems is just $20 to reserve a spot, which makes it very affordable. Hidden Gems, same thing, is where I think they have so many options now, is that you sometimes don't see a lot of downloads of your book. So Hidden Gems is $20 to reserve. They often will book out months in advance. So you really need to get on that sooner rather than later. They do have a very broad email list, and they'll email it out. But what I'm saying is some people will get 100 downloads. Others are only getting like 15, 10. And I think that's just because these readers have so much to choose from, and there's so many people doing ARCs. I'm not saying don't use it. I'm just saying manage your expectations. And it doesn't mean that the program's bad. It means that there's competition out there. And for Hidden Gems, you pay according to how many people actually click or download the book. $20 to reserve, and then it goes up from there. I think it caps out at like $400. So I think that's a good program as well. There's Book Sirens, which does book reviews for nonfiction books. We've already talked about Pubby.co, which is a great program, but it does take your time. You have to be willing to go in and review other people's books, and it's more of like a cross swap promotion. So those are some great options. And then of course, if you have your own ARC team or street team and you just want to get the books to them, then I would recommend that you use somewhere like BookFunnel or StoryOrigin. Those are some great options. Let's see. If a reader leaves a review on a non-Amazon site, can the author move the review over to Amazon? No, you can't do that because it actually has to be posted through the reviewer's account. So in some cases, you can use a review. Let's say a blogger does a review and they don't leave a review on Amazon, you can't put the review on Amazon. You can contact the review and say, this is such a nice review. Would you consider, posting it on sales sites, and give them the links to Amazon, Goodreads, all those things. So you can do that. What you cannot do is you can actually move it over because it has to go through their account to post as a review. You can use an excerpt and put it in your editorial reviews. Your editorial reviews being something you access through Author Central for the book. And that would not be for just every review. This is not for reader reviews, like basic, like people who just buy it and read it. It's meant for editorial, which is bloggers, magazines, interviews, that kind of thing. And you can use them there, but you can't, unfortunately, you can't move them right over. My print book is on Amazon and IngramSpark. My ebook is on Amazon and Draft to Digital. Good job, Pam. Where can colleges buy my ebook in bulk with a discount without me being involved? Nowhere, unfortunately. Ebook sales in bulk is not something that's available through these sales sites. What you could do is, if you're not exclusive to Amazon, you could set up something like a book funnel sales page that had a discounted price, and you could sell direct through book funnel. That's an option. Or you can say, you're buying the ebook in bulk, I will discount my price on this day or this week to whatever the agreed upon price is. I have seen that done before, where it's like, okay, you're asking all of your college students to buy this book. You would like a ebook discount. What I will do is I will drop my price from July 21st until July 25th to $2.99, and anyone who would like it can grab it then. Otherwise, it will be full price. So you can do something like that. But as far as I know, there's not really a way to not be involved. The closest would be, again, doing something like a special sales page on BookFunnel and selling direct at a discount price with a special link, which still is some of your involvement, I'm afraid. Hopefully that answers that a little bit. Let's see. More industry news actually over on Amazon. If you advertise in the EU, Amazon has just announced that they are going to give more information on the advertiser. So if you are advertising on Amazon EU, which not a ton of people do, it's a smaller advertising market. Most US books are not going to be promoted on Amazon EU. But if you are, just know that if you're running ads to EU, that Amazon's changing their policy for privacy. And so when you run an ad in Amazon EU, the browser, the user can actually find your personal information, the name of the user, and I believe it might even be the address of that person. So just know there's less privacy over on that site if you continue to use Amazon EU for advertising. Amazon is also currently doing some studies. They're doing some groups for Amazon advertising. So if you get an email from Amazon inviting you to be part of a focus or study group for Amazon ads, this is always double check the domain name, like I said, but it's not a scam. This is actually going on, where Amazon is doing some study groups for advertising. That typically means that they're looking for feedback, and they may be changing up the system or providing new features. So you may get to try features first. It does require that you put some time into it. So that's an interesting thing that you could kind of be a part of. And while on the topic of Amazon, I've gotten a couple questions this week, actually, just about how Amazon payments work. So Amazon payments, number one, they pay 60 days in arrears, which means that any payment, let's say for books sold in July, you're not actually going to get them until September, because it's 2 months out. So if you are getting paid in July, you're actually getting paid on May sales. So know that if you're new to Amazon, or if you're like, man, I sold a lot of books last month and my royalty check is pretty small, it's because it's actually 2 months in arrears. So that's important to know. The other thing to know is that Amazon does pay per the market. So if you see Amazon drops in like 5 small payments and 1 big payment, it's because you probably sold smaller amounts in certain countries and larger amounts in others. So for example, I have a book on my KDP account that I'll get like $3 in Australia, $3 in India, and $200 in the US. And that's just normal. That's just how they're converting and then actually depositing money. So very normal. If you're not getting paid, if you're like, man, it's been more than 2 months and I'm not seeing payments, go in and make sure that all of your tax information, your billing, and your bank account is all set up. If your tax information is not in there, they're not going to pay you. If there is a problem with your bank account, obviously you're not going to get the money. So make sure that that kind of information is all filled out if you're not seeing your sales reports. IngramSpark is actually even further. IngramSpark is 90 days in arrears. So you actually see it 90 days out for any sales there. And then of course you have to factor in if there are any returns of your book. That actually what they do is they take whatever profit or royalty you should be earning. If you get returns, they take it out of that profit before they pay you. Sometimes you end up with a negative balance if you get a lot of returns and you haven't made a lot of sales. So that's something to watch as well. And once again, if you're not getting paid, go look, make sure you don't have a bunch of returns because you might have a negative balance. Check, make sure your tax information is all filled out, and check your bank account information. Why do we not put eBooks up on IngramSpark? If my ebook was with them, could the buyer get a discount? Nope, IngramSpark does not do, you can discount your book just like you can on Amazon on Draft Digital, but they don't do bulk discounts. It's not something that they offer. In fact, it's not really offered for ebooks at all because it's not, it's just not a thing. It's not very convenient for them, so they don't do it. Why don't I personally use IngramSpark for ebooks? There's a couple of reasons. It's very hard to delist a book from IngramSpark. You have to actually get in contact with their customer service and ask that they cease distribution. It's usually a slow process. I also don't prefer IngramSpark for my ebook distribution because I do think their platform's a little more difficult than Draft to Digital. And anytime you want to make a change, it's slower to process. So if you want to schedule an ebook discount or something like that, it's slower to process through IngramSpark. And they don't have the tools that allow you to like set up a promotion that will allow the price to go up and down without you messing with it. So for example, Vicky has a BookBub coming up in August. And for that BookBub, I can go on to Draft to Digital and say, hey, we want the price to drop down on this date and come back on this date. I do it one time, it's taken care of. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to go back in and raise the price. It's done. For IngramSpark, I have to go in and discount it, and I have to do it and allow it time because price changes are pushed out on Fridays. So I have to make sure that I do it the Friday prior, and then I have to come back in and change the price when I'm done, and then it'll be changed the Friday coming up. So it's just more work. And it's not as convenient. And so that's why I don't personally prefer it. Distribution between IngramSpark and Draft to Digital is pretty comparable, but those are my reasons for not choosing to use them for most of the books I work. Is Amazon Seller Central worth the effort for hardcovers with a dust jacket book? When my book was released last November, it was showing out of stock on Amazon. I joined ASC and shipped books to stock. Now I see Amazon selling it through, and my book shows as other sellers. Should I cancel my seller account? That's a personal choice. But I will say Amazon Seller Central is where it's like, I hate to liken it to this. I'm showing my age, but it's a little bit like eBay where you can just put up a seller account and then sell books directly through Amazon. It means that you're responsible for shipping books and all that good stuff. For some people, it's worth it. However, you do have to be careful because in some cases, Amazon Seller Central, when you sign up, has a monthly fee. Now you can say, I don't want to pay the monthly fee. I would rather pay per item sold, but you have to know to do that. And you do still have to pay a fee per item sold. So if you are happy to have IngramSpark to upload your hardcover with dust jacket on IngramSpark and have IngramSpark ship it over to Amazon and have them take care of that, I personally wouldn't use the Amazon Seller Central because it's one more thing for you to do. But if you see that your profit margins are way higher and you're making money on it, or maybe you have offset print books, you have 1,000 books in your garage and you need to get rid of them, Amazon Seller Central might be the way for you. It does give you more control of that sale, but it also takes more time and responsibility. So it does depend on you, but those are kind of the pros and cons that I see personally. And for most of the time, I will say for a single title for one book, unless you've got, again, 1,000 copies in your garage, most of the time it's not worth the work, in my opinion. You may have the time and say, oh, it's absolutely worth it to make more profit. I don't know, but that's my 2 cents on it anyway. You may recall a couple of weeks ago, Cheryl had asked a question about when getting feedback from judges on an award. So if you submit for award, even if you don't win, oftentimes you will get judge feedback. And Cheryl had the question of whether or not you could use that judge feedback as a review. Like, can you actually put it in your editorial reviews? Can you use it in your marketing? And I had said, yeah, I don't see a problem with that, but you could always double check. And being the wonderful lady that she is, she went and checked. This was specific to Ben Franklin Awards with IBPA. They had given her some feedback that was really wonderful. And so she asked if she could use that feedback in writing and in marketing. And the response from Terry Nathan, who is absolutely a joy over at IBPA, was, of course you can use it, enjoy it. He suggested that the attribution be listed as, sorry, I'm reading, IBPA Benjamin Franklin Award Judge. So you do have to, give the attribution for that review, but he said, have at it, use it. And I think that's great to know. So thank you, Cheryl, for going that extra step in confirming and just making sure for us. We appreciate that. Guys, we have like 10 more minutes. If you have any more questions, I think I kind of went through my list of emails and industry news, but I'm here to answer anything if you've got a couple more questions. As I said, I know we had Alessandra. If you didn't join us live last week for Alessandra Torre, she was magnificent. She was so generous with all of her information. If you missed that interview, strongly recommend you go over to YouTube and listen to it. She was a lot of fun, but she also was like, she wasn't holding anything back. She was telling us all the good stuff, which I really appreciated. I do have Anna Termini coming up in August, and she is subsidiary rights. So when we're talking about audio rights and rights for translation rights and things like that, she'll be coming up, which would be a really great time. And then I've got a sensitivity reader lined up for September. So lots of great guests coming up, which I am very excited about. And otherwise, we're here. We're gonna chat and answer your questions. I don't see anything else coming in. So in that case, we'll just end a couple minutes early. Thank you all for joining me. I know summer is busy, but I'm glad that you choose to spend your Friday mornings here with me. If you have additional questions, just email them in info@newshelves.com. We will tackle them next week, same time, same bat channel, 10 a.m. Eastern here, newshelves.com/FAF. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next week.